Hi everyone, it's Jordan here from The Perfect Workout, and today I am joined by Mark Alexander. He's the CEO of ARX, and we're going to be diving into high intensity exercise and everything that you essentially need to know about it and why it's so important. But before we do, Mark, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and the purpose that you're currently serving in the fitness industry?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Mark Alexander here. I've been in the fitness industry for a little over 20 years and started as a trainer, started as a facility owner that utilized high intensity training, high intensity exercise, and was super slow certified and kind of evolved over the years into co-developing and developing equipment and software to support systems, and not only on equipment but also business systems. And so where I guess am currently is serving as CEO of ARX. And what that is a computer controlled motorized resistance training system that essentially makes high intensity exercise much simpler for the trainer, because a lot of things are programmatic already, and you can control speed and things that are variables that as trainers we often struggle with a little bit, trying to get clients to do proper things. So hopefully ARX is a tool to which that makes that job all the easier and more effective. So yeah.
Yeah. And I was just telling Mark, I haven't personally had a chance to try it just because I don't have any close to me, but we have an ARX specific studio in our Menlo Park area, and that has been, I've heard nothing but incredible, wonderful things, and it's like the ultimate butt kicking.
Yeah, I've spent a little bit of time there as well when they were getting up and going, and it's exciting to see. So I'm looking forward to the future there, how the perfect workout will integrate ARX for sure.
Yeah. And you were just telling me before we hopped on here that you've known our CEO, Matt Hedman, for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think I was trying to remember, but I think it was like February of 2000, so over 20 years ago. There was a conference. We were both at the Super Slow annual convention, and met him there and realized he had just been open for, I think at the time, maybe a year, something like that. It wasn't that long, and I was just opening. So I was, we were a couple of the younger guys in the room at the time, and so we were drawn to each other. I could tell Matt was super smart and very methodical with how he thought. So it wasn't very long that I took a plane out to La Jolla to see his first facility, and it opened up my eyes. I think at the time it was 400 square feet. Maybe it's Herschel Avenue, something like that.
Good memory.
Yeah. But it was just like, wow, how did he do this? And so I started Efficient Exercise that year, and have since moved away from owning facilities and Efficient Exercise. But I hope that experience can help me guide others as they're using ARX in their studios. So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Matt is a super guy, well respected by me, and I'm sure many of you as well.
Absolutely. So. And you nailed it. Very smart, very methodical, and also just like an ultra kind human being.
Yeah, a Ken doll with a calculator for a brain, I think is what someone had said. I didn't say that, but yeah, I think
I'm going to share that. That's good.
Greg Anderson had said that many moons ago, and I thought that was pretty right on.
Yeah, and that's actually, you have a really good memory, because I believe he opened that La Jolla studio in May of 1999. So yeah, February 2000,
yeah.
Then just about a year.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, yeah, we were on a similar path and trajectory there for a bit, and I had opened up to 5 studios at one time, and realized when ARX had legs and I wanted to focus there, started selling those studios off. But yeah, he has done quite well with the perfect workout, and I'm glad to see you guys thriving. So
yeah, that's cool, and we're really happy to have you here, because I believe your beginnings working with your dad, Dr. Philip Alexander, that's a big, the book that he wrote, High Intensity Exercise, is a really big piece of what we also share with our clientele. We're big fans of his work, and I don't want to make assumptions, but I'm assuming that is how you got your start.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and about the book specifically, I think it's such a simple, brief explanation. Doesn't have a lot of fluff, but it doesn't need it. And I think it's just to teach the points. One of our core values here at ARX is simple is better. So I really love his simple style in that book, and we've used it and again leveraged it at Efficient Exercise as well for many years, and still use it here at ARX for internal trainings as well. But yeah, my beginnings, I almost didn't have a choice, I guess, if you will. My father was an internist, and looking back with perspective, was always kind of the exercise is medicine philosophy, even back in the 70s and 80s. And we had a barn that was outfitted with a full weight room, like very at the time, very stock full weight room. And so that was my playground, quite literally. I think my mom said I was lifting weights before I was out of diapers.
Wow.
So yeah, I've been around it quite literally all my life, and just realized personal benefits from it, just with athletics and just how I felt and how I looked, and things that I realized there was power there was confidence there. And then so after going to the University of Texas and working in the athletics department for a period of time, I also realized I'm an entrepreneur, and I don't know that I can work for other people. I need to do it myself. So I used a lot of that past experience to try to impact people's lives that really resistance training, when done the right way, done kind of the high intensity exercise way, can really be powerful. And it allows for people to spend their time on what probably they want to spend the time on, things they like. And I'm not suggesting that the time in the exercise is all that fun per se, but it doesn't have to be, because you get a lot of time to do other things that you enjoy. So really, the people that we've worked with over the years and continue by proxy to work with through ARX are people that are wanting the most bang for the exercise buck, but they also have a life, and then they want to do things with their life. So we're hopefully making them stronger and giving them more strength for their lives. So
Yeah. And we'll probably get into that too, the difference between exercise versus recreation, and kind of some of those misconceptions. But
yeah.
In the simplest form, from your perspective, what is high intensity exercise?
Yeah, so exercise is a stimulus on the body, so that's important to remember. It's a negative stimulus at that. So in other words, it's a stimulus that you need some amount of time / recovery from. And so with high intensity exercise, it's brief, focused, intentional. But what we've discovered over the years is that being short, brief, and intense actually has more power and more positive effect to the body than kind of prolonged exercise does. And so it's important to understand that dynamic. It's a stimulus, you need response from it. And sometimes we say, like, well, where do you actually get stronger? Where do you grow muscle? And people in the gym. It's like, well, no, it really happens afterward. The gym was just the time that you needed to affect that stimulus, and your body needs to eat, sleep, and do its recovery. So I think that's the important aspect of high intensity exercise, is that recovery is very important as you do that. So
yeah, and I think some key takeaways that anyone who may be new listening to this concept is that it's short, it's brief, and it's intense. Yeah. Can you give us an example of an ideal exercise that would be considered high intensity, short, brief, and intense?
Yeah. So I mean, what we like to look at is compound exercises. So you can isolate movements all day. You can do wrist curls, biceps curls, and triceps extensions, and they're not bad exercises. They just get a more finite amount of muscle fibers involved. So what we like to look at is larger exercises or larger muscle groups with compound exercises. So a leg press, for example, is one that fits into many routines, and you'll see those machines around. Some are better than others for sure, but a leg press is a squatting type of movement. But so that your listeners can visualize it, you are essentially triple extension from your ankles, knees, and hips. You're extending your legs out, not to lock out, hopefully, and coming back, and not crushing you, but to a manageable 90-ish degree angle of the bone. And so what you're doing there is you're activating the glutes and the quads and the calves and a lot of the large muscle groups in the lower body to work methodically. We mentioned Matt's methodical. No question that this method is somewhat methodical. So you're trying to do it in a safe, effective, and efficient manner. And to me, you always have to have all three. You don't want to sacrifice safety. You don't want to, in fact, sacrifice efficiency or effectiveness. You want to make sure you're considering all of those. And so with a gravity-based system, I'm in ARX world, so it's a non-gravity based system. So I don't want to get too technical in that world yet. But on a gravity-based system, just normal weight stack type of machine, what you're doing is you're trying to eliminate momentum. So you're not trying to herky-jerky through it. You're trying to go slow and methodical through it so that the muscles actually work, not momentum. And you're trying to do it in a manner to which your muscles will fatigue. That's the stimulus we talked about just a minute ago. Fatiguing the muscles is really what you're after here. And you want to do it in a manner to which, you don't want to go for too long, because that was probably a lot more cardiometabolic and a whole lot less strength and power than you wanted from the set. And then you also don't want to go too short, because maybe you just never really activated some of that cardiometabolic effect that you can. And so, 60 seconds to 120 seconds, somewhere in that range. And again, people can kind of dissect what their preferred time under tension is. But, in general, you don't want to work for too long, i.e. maybe under a minute. You don't want to work for, over a couple minutes, and maybe not under, roughly 45 seconds or a minute. So, so that's where you go through a series, typically in full body fashion. So maybe if you do leg press, you'll also do like a chest press. You'll also do a row, kind of antagonist movements. You might also do some pull over, pull down, and then you might also do, some overhead press. And so you're kind of working in antagonist movements, because our bodies function better that way, and we're not neglecting body parts. So really, as you go through a full workout, between maybe 4 and 8 exercises total is very common. It doesn't take very long. 20 minutes is usually about all that you really need. And if you've done it well and you've done it right, you worked in 20 minutes.
Yeah, and for any of us who've actually gone through a high intensity exercise or workout, that you can't go any longer than that.
Yeah. And so there's a bit of skill acquisition. We're just having an internal meeting about some of our programs for ARX, and we're about to get a research study started. And there are some people that take some time to figure out how to work hard, and that's fine. We all start at different places, but I think the important thing, especially for hopefully your listenership here, is that it doesn't matter what age you start. You can be 18 or you can be 80. There's still benefit from starting. So don't be intimidated to start, because again, I know the perfect workout. I know how they do things, and safety, effectiveness, and efficiency are all considered. You're not sacrificing any of those, which I deem kind of very important principles when you're doing high intensity exercise.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's very little workout or exercise programs out there, at least from my perspective, that anyone at any age can do.
Absolutely.
And this is one of those exceptions. Is we've got clients that are as young as 11 years old and as old as their mid 90s, and you can't say that for very many.
No, you really can't. And that, again, you're not sacrificing the effectiveness for either demographic either. So you're maximizing it, I would say.
That was a fantastic description of an exercise. I could picture everything about the leg press doing it as you're explaining that. But for maybe somebody who's not as well versed in the method as either one of us, what would be an example of an ineffective exercise?
Well, so if we take any of the safe, effective, or efficient principles that I think should be guiding high intensity exercise, so anything that sacrificed any one of those. So I will, what do I want to pick on here? I will say maybe something like an Olympic snatch, which is taking a bar from the ground and all the way up above your head in one fell swoop. If you're an Olympic lifter and you do that for sport, you better be doing that. In other words, that's your tool to win your medal or win your money or whatever it is. So like, I get it, like that is a tool, but it's ineffective for a lot of people. I would say the majority of the public should not be entertaining that because they're not built for it. And those that are built for it do it until they're hurt. And so it sacrifices safety. So that's kind of where I was going with it is, it's sacrificing safety to do something like that. And I have these conversations probably more frequently. If we want to talk about effectiveness, people will say, well, I want to run. Well, why? Why do you want to run? And again, there's nothing inherently wrong with running. But, if it's, the reason is for a stress relief, well, why don't you just go on a walk with your dog? That's probably a better stress relief, and it won't be as, harmful on your joints. Well, I want to run because I want to lose weight. Well, that's an ineffective way to lose weight because all running does is it expends calories, it expends your energy stores, and then it makes you hungry. So then you want to go and you want to eat. And so you've just eradicated your run by going to Krispy Kreme and getting a couple donuts, or whatever your body was craving that you really needed at that time. And it's because, like I said, your energy stores are being used in a inefficient manner when you're running. Mm-hmm. And again, if you're running for sport and you're running for social and again, I don't want to say never run, but just understand what the benefits are and why you're doing it. But from an exercise perspective, I would say for the general public, and I can see Austin, I'm from Austin, live here in Austin, and there's they call it Lady Bird Lake for Lady Bird Johnson, but it runs through downtown, and there's a trail that runs around it. If you just casually observe people running around this trail, I would say I'm being very generous here and saying 10% of those people should actually be running. Most of those people should be doing high intensity exercise, again, in the weight room, with resistance training, not going out there and running. And so anyway, numerous reasons, but you said what are some ways that people are being ineffective, and I definitely say, running for the most part is ineffective for what people think they're getting from it.
Yeah. And you're kind of starting to go down this road of the difference between exercise versus recreation, because there's this, I don't know if belief is the right word, but that is part of the super slow protocol, that there is a very specific definition of what constitutes as exercise, and then kind of everything else is considered recreation, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So kind of where I started with brief, intense, effective stimulus done through resistance training is essentially one way to define exercise. And then everything else that you do for fun or for socialization or for sport or, for competition, you would call that recreation. So, it to me is not the proper way to say, I exercised today. Well, what'd you do? I played tennis. No, that's not exercising. That is movement, that is competition, that is fun. That's something that is something you might enjoy, but maybe the next guy doesn't enjoy. So, just try not to confuse the two things. Again, and I like to say, it's not that there's anything wrong with tennis. You can play tennis, but just understand, what benefits you're reaping from tennis and what benefits you're reaping from exercise. Sometimes we like to say that exercise might be more analogous to brushing your teeth. It's just something you do. Maybe it's not super fun, but if you don't do it, eventually, things will rot and decay. It's the same thing with your body. If you're not paying attention to it and doing high intensity exercise, your muscles will decay, your bones will decay. Things start to happen, and you start to fall apart quite literally. And it's not fun. But again, at any age, you can combat that and improve. So
yeah, and we like to tell our clients that keep doing the things that you love to do. This exercise that we're doing together is going to actually enhance the things that you love to do, whether it be playing tennis or golfing. It's going to make you stronger, better, whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah. A stronger athlete is a better athlete, and less injured athlete too. Again, I had many years of working with clients, and sometimes it's just, I have grandkids now and I want to be able to get down on the floor with them. And that's totally cool too. That is a great goal to have, and that is one that strength will help with. So
Yeah. Now with super slow or high intensity exercise being really short and brief, is it possible to overtrain or overdo it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something to be cautious about, and the short answer is yes. And I think the longer answer and more detailed is it depends. It depends on, how I talked about recovery earlier. What I've found, and this is, personal anecdotes of overtraining, what I've found in high intensity exercise world is it's often less from the gym and more from outside stressors. So maybe you're not sleeping well, maybe you're eating crap, maybe you're going through a divorce, maybe you lost a loved one, whatever it is. So those outside stressors will definitely impact the world that's going on inside the gym. And so it's the chicken or the egg, like which one is really causing, which to be overtraining. I just tend to look at recovery, sleep, what you're eating, what life is going on as the more likely culprit for overtraining. Because I think most people's body is pretty adaptive, pretty responsive. And I tend to think most people have internal governors that don't allow them to overtrain too much. But some people ride right through those governors. So I've seen that too. People are able to push themselves beyond where they really should be. So does overtraining exist from the gym or from resistance training? Sure. But I usually see it in kind of, the bell curve, the middle of the bell curve. And 80% of the time, in my estimation, it's from these outside stressors that cause overtraining. And so if you are going through rough life patches, you need to watch what you're doing in terms of exercise. And that's where it gets tough, because, going on a walk on the beach could be a stress reliever, but going and doing 100 sprints on the beach might be overkill at that period of time. You need to kind of figure out what you need to do. And so yes, and that was a long-winded answer. Yes, you can overtrain, but I feel like most people, in the way that they're thinking about it, it's being overly cautious on how much resistance training they're doing versus can you pay attention more to what life is doing outside of the weight room, and can you mitigate stress? Can you do things better in terms of what you're eating and managing relationships? Those things to me are open up more doors to making overtraining not a thing. So
I mean, a lot of power is in that recovery time period in between training sessions. And I know, I mean, us at the Perfect Workout, we do 2 sessions a week maximum. Is that do you follow the similar protocol?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So when I owned Efficient Exercise and was running facilities, I think it was roughly 60-40, maybe 70-30 of twice a week versus once a week. So we would do 1 or 2 sessions a week. And I think there's a slim minority of 3 sessions a week, but it's just people that really wanted it. But yes, I think twice a week, again, middle of the bell curve is probably what most people would benefit the most from, for sure.
Yeah. How would I know what my body actually needs in terms of recovery? Because I'm going to be different from you, and also our 95-year-old client versus our 11-year-old client. So what types of things should people pay attention to really maximize that recovery process so that they're getting the most out of their training sessions?
Yeah, I think from a trainer's perspective, I'll speak to that real quickly. Our is exercise performance improving, whether it's by amount of weight lifted, amount of time it's lifted, kind of some of the cardiometabolic, is this person able to move between exercises in an efficient manner and not take a whole lot of time? Those are some things that you can monitor over time. And of course, some of my pet peeves about being a trainer was the diligence of the note taking and the charting that you would have to do. And so we've tried to eliminate a lot of that. Everything is tracked in ARX world, so you can really see that quantification of your performance is right in your face. So from a training perspective, that's one way, or trainer's perspective. But from a client's perspective, if you're an exerciser, again, are you feeling really bonked every time you're working out, or are you aware enough? And again, self-awareness is something I'm not sure is a gift of that many people, but we all should be more and more self-aware. I mean, we all can improve on it. But are your relationships suffering? Are you stress eating? Are you eating a lot of sugar? What are those triggers that you see? Are they happening or not? And I think those are the things to start paying attention to. Sleep is a big one. I mean, there's more and more research now to know what sleep does. I wear a Aura ring here to track my sleep. Maybe I'm over anal about it, but
people in our company that I know do that.
Yeah. but it's a helpful tool. I mean, I feel like it's a helpful tool to know, because there were some years there, and again, looking back, it was stress. It was some things going on with the businesses that were out of my control, but I wanted to control. Things that were happening, and when I dialed in my sleep and I really focused on that, and kind of adopted the grandma hours. It really does help, and I wish it weren't this case, but for me personally, anytime I have a drink or two, even that a little bit will affect my sleep, and I wish it didn't. My heart rate's elevated, and I don't have the deep sleep like I usually do, and so it's just knowing. I guess this knowledge is power. Just don't get over consumed with it, because some of us do have that tendency to get kind of too obsessive with it. But I think high intensity exercise in general kind of fights the obsessive compulsive tendencies that some people might have, because you only get like 2 swings at it every week. And so just by frequency, you're limiting your ability or exposure there to not get too obsessed with it.
Yeah, and it's a very holistic approach, actually. I'm hearing you talk about that. Exercise is just one piece of the pie. Everything else plays a really big part in it too. And you mentioned something right there, is doing it twice a week kind of prevents you from being obsessed about how much exercise you're doing. Yeah. And it's definitely a paradigm shift that many of us, including myself, have had to go through, of more is not better. And your dad explains it beautifully in the book of it's not how much exercise your body can actually withstand, it's like how little it actually requires.
Yes. Yeah, minimum effective dose. That's super powerful to think about. It's not something that, other than maybe drug companies, even think about that often. And but to carry on that a bit further, with drug companies, it's not like if there's an effective dose of 50 milligrams, it's not that taking 200 milligrams is necessarily better. It's same with exercise. Like it needs to be the right dose, and there can be too much. And so, and by exercise, it can also be, based on our earlier definition, just too much activity, too much recreation, just too much of whatever. As I'm sporting Corona hair and Corona beard now, because we're in this lockdown, I've been taking like a couple walks a day, and I try to manage it. Again, activity tracker. I know like what I'm doing in terms of activity, but even that, can have a bit of an impact on what I've noticed is kind of leg performance with leg press or deadlifting, something like that. So you just have to watch it, and know that, I mean, really what you should be after is minimum effective dose. And I think the more is better mentality is one that's, tried and true American. And, we've been taught that, many of us. But it's really, in terms of exercise, more is not better. Quality over quantity is really what I always try to push.
Yeah. And another paradigm shift that I feel like goes along with that, and it's actually reiterated in the book, not, once, but twice, is the topic of calories, and calories being burned during an exercise versus being as a result of exercise. Can you help us wrap our brains around that a little bit?
Yeah. So earlier I had mentioned, I'm going to go run because I want to burn calories and I want to lose weight. That's a loop and a cycle that doesn't really work. And it's because your calorie expenditure, even if you're going high side on what that is, let's say you burn 600 calories, and again, people will question how much that actually is. That's still relatively little compared to what you're intaking every day. And so the better way to look at it is, if you get stronger, in theory, and there's some people that don't have the ability to gain much muscle mass, but still being stronger will still help you. But what that does for most people is you gain some amount of muscle mass. Don't be afraid of muscle mass. Again, that's another myth that most people think, well, if I start lifting weights, I'm going to look like this bodybuilder or this woman or this Serena Williams or something. It's like, no, that's genetic freaks.
If it were only that easy.
Yeah. It's not that ezy. And so, well, and it is for, like I said, the genetic royalty of the top 0.1% or whatever. But anyway, but remembering strength training gets you stronger. High intensity exercise will gain muscle mass, and so that muscle mass is metabolic currency, is what I like to call it. So you've got this metabolic currency to play with now. So now your ability to, I'm not suggesting you take in the Oreos, but if you had to, at least now, because you have another pound of muscle mass, your fuel required is higher and your fuel expenditure is higher. So that muscle mass works for you all the time. It's not just during a bout of exercise. It's all the other time that muscle is now working for you. So it helps hormonally. It helps with just, as you were talking about, the caloric expenditure. Muscle mass is metabolically expensive, if you will, to your body. So, but that's a good thing when you're trying to control fat. And by fat, I mean body fat percentage, how much fat you're carrying on your frame. And most people really, when they say they want to lose weight, they want to lose fat. They want to be more shapely. They want to look better. They want to feel better. And so I've seen many times, especially with women, where maybe they even gain 5 pounds over, a course of time, but they're like, oh yeah, but my pants fit better. And, I can flex my arm and feel kind of good about it. And, things like that. So hopefully don't over emphasize the scale either, which is another habit to try to break. It can give you a guideline of what's happening, but usually body fat percentage, whether by DEXA scan or there's many other scanners now that can do it at a much more affordable manner. Look at that. That's going to be a better indicator of what's going on than just what does my bathroom scale say.
Yeah. What are some other ways, because you're obviously somebody who's well-versed in tracking information. What are some other ways that people can track their progress, whether it be strength or fat loss?
Yeah. And I mentioned DEXA scan. I mean, I think that's there are some people, because it's a dual imaging x-ray, don't want any x-ray exposure, and I understand that. But most major universities have those, and some hospital systems have them as well. So you could look up a DEXA scanner in your area, and you only need to do it like once a year, maybe every 6 months if you're really trying to track. You don't have to do it that often. So that is one way to know what's going on. It's also
bone density as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, that's where I was headed with it. Is it actually, for a lot of your listenership and for many people over the age of 40-ish or so, should be looking at it as well because of bone density, especially females. So we all lose muscle over time, and we all lose bone over time. And resistance training, high intensity exercise, can reverse those effects. So you can actually gain bone and gain muscle over time. And a DEXA scan is probably the kind of gold standard, if you will, for looking at it. But there are many devices out there, Fit3D and InBody and bioimpedance devices. And sorry, I plead my ignorance here. I'm not sure if you use something like that at the Perfect Workout, but whatever it is, any of those will be consistent in and of themselves, even if they're not the most accurate. So I think anything aside from just a typical bathroom scale, any of those things that can kind of track your body are helpful.
Yeah. And then also for our listeners, I know a lot of local nutrition shops, when you're able to get back into those, have things like InBody that are easily accessible as well.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. So we've touched on, obviously building muscle mass, losing fat, and now bone density. We could probably talk for hours on all the benefits of high intensity exercise, but what are some of the other ones that we maybe not have touched on? What else do you get out of doing high intensity exercise?
Yeah, I think blood lipids is one that gets overlooked. Usually, you increase your HDL, your good cholesterol. Oftentimes, will lower the LDL, the particles that will potentially cause problems. I think I touched on it barely, but the hormonal effects of exercise are noted in research as well. You again. The balance of testosterone, whether you're male or female, over time also declines. And so muscle mass and resistance training help trigger the positive hormonal effects of testosterone and growth hormone. I'm just saying these things very matter-of-factly because they're matter-of-fact to me, but I also know that, steroids have gotten a bad rep. Like naturally occurring in your body is actually a good thing. And like I said, the resultant outcome, aside from the things we've already talked about, some of the hormonal benefits are extremely important as well.
You may or may not have information on this, but how could that help somebody maybe going through menopause? Do you know?
Yeah, obviously with many things like this, it's like, well, refer to your physician and
of course.
Doctor on this. But I think the study, and now I would say implementation of I'm just going to use it very, very broadly, but hormone therapy. It's been dabbled with for many, many years, but I think it's something to consider. There are people that are good at it and people that are bad at it. but what you're saying, if I think I'm hearing you correctly, I mean, does high intensity exercise positively affect your hormonal profile? And the answer is yes. And I would suggest that it doesn't really matter who you are, you will benefit from it. But yeah, in menopause, when things are more accelerated, it's definitely a time, because what's happening is not only your hormones hitting the tank and you're going crazy and you're sweating and not sweating, but also your bones, as we mentioned earlier, your bone density is usually starting to tank a little more aggressively at that time too. And so the bone density improvements and the hormonal positive effects, namely growth hormone and testosterone, to be broad and a little more specific, are what you can reap the benefits from with high intensity exercise. So you got to do your resistance training, and you can't really get around it at any age. It just has a different benefit slightly as you age, but it's still the same stuff. It's just a teenage boy. I've got one. He's not going to notice necessarily the same hormonal change because he's already chock full of hormones, but in menopause, when things are really getting kind of wrecked for a period of time, try to keep the balance by doing your resistance training, your high intensity exercise.
Yeah. And we've actually, been paying attention to some studies on cognitive health and the direct relation to strength training. Do you have any information on how that affects brain medicine?
Yeah, no, there's research out there, and effectively, you mentioned holistic earlier. I mean, I think we need to be thinking about the body at all times as a whole. It's a system, and so if your systems, your mitochondria, for example, within your muscles, kind of the powerhouse of the cells, if you will, those get positively affected by resistance training, and even more so with high intensity exercise and resistance training. So the resultant effect of one of many with the cognitive health is that you are now a more efficient powerhouse, if you will. And that also holds true to your brain, to your gut. There's also, we could probably go on again about brain and gut connection. There's a connection there that's more pronounced than other areas. But yes, resistance training will help with it. It's just magic. It does everything. No, but yes, it will help with cognitive function as well. And it seemed like there was something else that I was right after talking about cognitive, I forget about what I was about to say.
You need to go work out, Mark.
Yeah. I need it. That's fine.
So interestingly enough, even though the method of super slow and high intensity exercise, it's been around for a long time. It is still, I wouldn't consider widely known or mainstream. A lot of people still don't know about it.
Yeah.
So what is, being a leader in this industry, what is something that you want everybody to know about exercise?
Yeah, I think, you didn't ask this about the reasons for it, but I think there's many, like many fields, legacy and who's in charge, if you will, has a big effect on what's going on. And so I think high intensity exercise, as it moves forward, my sincere hope is that more and more people have access to it, because it is, there's no magic pill, but it's close to it. And so I do hope that, as people are starting to question, high volume routines and, well, I don't have, 3 hours to spend in the gym. What do I do? As people are starting to question these things and then look at the research and look at the data, I like to always say there's more than one way up the mountain, but the high intensity exercise method is a pretty straight shot. And yeah, it might be a climb. We're not saying it's not, but it's worth the climb. And so, as we move forward, yeah, I really do hope that more and more people come to it. My hope with ARX is that empowers more people to come to it, because we've taken away some of the hurdles that are sometimes accompanied by it. Some of it's the safety concerns and, well, I can't lift heavy weight. Well, this adapts to you. You don't have to, exert to kind of get it over your weakest point. You adapt throughout the range of motion. So, and the other thing that I did remember here real quickly was just the anti-aging effects. I think are also known, but I hinted around all of that. But the combination of the muscle, the bone, the hormonal, the cognitive, all those don't improve with age. I wish they did. But what can be improved is all of those things from high intensity exercise. So I think for your listenership, knowing that none of us are getting younger, but biologically we can impact that, and actually, our biological age could get younger if we do things about it. So, yep.
Yeah, you can fight the decline with this.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think, for the perfect workout ecosystem, I mean, if you're a current client, I would encourage you, keep it up. I understand these are weird times. I don't know when this will be released, but what is this, April 17th? And so, yeah, I mean, we're right. Kind of most places are in the social distancing and kind of shelter in place type of scenarios. And so, but keep it up, and you can still do some things at home. And I'm sure you're probably also providing some resources for that. Even the book High Intensity Exercise that we were referencing earlier that my father has written has some basics that you can do in there. And I would say for ARX, yes, the perfect workout has started integrating it. Hopefully it's a whole lot more over the coming years. But I would say that, look for us and check us out no matter where you are, because I also realize that, people move and people relocate and people travel a lot. So, hopefully you could look up, ARX Houston or ARX, Chicago, or, look up, quick Google search should generate, where some of our facilities are. And I say our customers' facilities, because, I'd love for you to try it and experience kind of the 21st century high intensity exercise. So, and again, going back, tying into your question, why isn't it maybe more popular? And maybe there's numerous reasons, but hopefully we have solved some of that with technology. The technology will support what we're doing. The data is there. I had alluded to some research that we have in the pipeline right now, and I think that will help as well. So data doesn't lie. We hopefully can start to support more and more of what we're doing. And again, I think as long as we as a high intensity exercise community yes, we can be dogmatic about do high intensity exercise, but let's not be so dogmatic about, don't do anything else, because people are going to want to, when you give them a better engine, they're going to want to go use that engine. So just be okay with the recreational activities that people like to do, because they have other benefits, And so, like I said, I've seen people kind of be so dogmatic about, what they're trying to control with their clients. So let's just, control what we can and release what we can't. And like I said, let high intensity exercise do its thing. And then that's a gateway to get into the holistic side. That's a great starting point. It's a great foundation. It's not everything, but it is a great foundation. So if you are a practitioner or trainer listening, know that you're doing good, and know that that's, like I said, one piece of the puzzle. So let's kind of use that as the foundation to build and make people healthier and live longer and stronger. So yeah.
Beautifully said. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. It's fun.